Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Trine 2. So, if this, before you even start the game section here, is supposed to be a tutorial of everything you would see in the game, there is kind of noticeably some things missing here. Pretty much anything that would hurt you is missing. And yeah, you wouldn't expect the enemies and the boss fights to be here, but it's a little strange that the show off of, say, fire and acid and spikes, all things that are fairly common in the main story levels, are just not here. And I would have to assume, once again, that you can do everything that you can do. So as you unlock more abilities on your main save file, all of a sudden you're adding a lot more elements to interact with, whereas at the very first time here you wouldn't be able to do much of anything. But this is hardly enough of an open sandbox if you were just trying to give me an open sandbox area, because there really isn't that much interesting to do. Like, you could make some boxes float and juggle boxes, and that's pretty much it. Anyways, we were going through the
after the goblins had attacked the kingdom,
DLC
the
levels, and the story was a lot better.
To a forbidding wasteland. The hero's trek through the blistering desert had taken them out of the frying pan and into a digestive system. An enormous worm had emerged from underneath the treacherous sands and swallowed all of them alive.
It's been a couple of days since I last played, so I'm probably going to take a little bit of time to warm up here.
Trine! I demand you come to us this instant and take us away. They wouldn't have taken Margaret if it weren't for you.
Oh, we'll find a way out, don't worry. We've seen worse than this.
Yes, although we've never seen the insides of worse than this.
Let's see. So now we're definitely playing more with the acid in the stomach acid thing. And you're gonna die very quickly here. So my guess is you hit something like this. Ooh, and it pops up a timed platform. Interesting. I don't know, though, how you would really reach that section without effectively having to do something like that. Either you do that or you do that, which maybe that is the better move. Let's see. There's just a lot of stuff here, though. And see, I don't really know if I just don't want to immediately give up on the idea of trying to get that last energy orb. Like, possibly the move is to make something like this and just throw a cube. Let's make a bigger cube. Is that a big cube? Because the camera feels like it's a little zoomed out. Oh, weirdly, you can only make the objects either inside or outside. Why is this not working? Maybe time is slowed down while I'm in here. Yeah, that worked perfectly. Like, weirdly, you can't seemingly control things unless you're in the same gravity well. And even at that, it seems like you can't actually control things. Like, the grip here seems to be right on the bottom edges of the cube. And so I need the cube actually to be over here on the other side, which means I have to make the cube over here and then hit something like that, and then see if we can get past this other one. We can destroy things fairly easy. And then that gets me to that point. And yeah, if you just don't want to really engage with the... If you really don't want to engage with all the collectibles and the XP stuff here, I just don't see a lot of gameplay. You would have just rushed through this whole area fairly quickly. Am I supposed to shoot that? So, a lot of acid, a lot of thought certainly being put here on getting XP and having maybe some more movable items. Okay. As far as all of this, it feels like that might be something that explodes. I'll try and make a platform there. Even the orbs are kind of bouncing up and down. So depending on how much you can tolerate Cronenberg-esque visuals, I think would be about as much as you might want to put to go through this level. I could definitely see some people being not interested in looking at some of the gorier aspects of teeth and eyeballs that all seem to be fairly prominent. Now, honestly, I don't know if I really need to do this way to get to that point. Okay. Again, this feels like this is attempting to be very physicsy and really show off even a level of improvement on physics that we just hadn't seen before. Although weirdly, it does seem like you can just cut your way through all these gates.
I've little fireball throwing children, just like you have your slime slinging baby wormlings.
But Amadeus's voice could not carry very far. And even if it could, it was unlikely that the worm cared much for anything its lunch had to say.
So I would question if you did something like this and then jumped up, could you get that high? No. If we did something like this and then jumped up, could we get that high? No. So it seems to me like the move is to probably hit that and get up to that point. And then hope we can hover. That's not high enough though. That is probably some more collectibles we want to get, and that's some more XP we want to get. It is really just a whole smorgasbord of XP all over the place. Alright, we have one skill point. We are saving up, I guess, for this. It wouldn't really make a lot of sense to get Frost Arrow, which isn't going to help us. And, well, Stealth Movement might be an interesting thing to play with. I guess we're probably saving up for this. I need to get a little bit more angle. And even at that, it still doesn't really feel like that's the actual solution. It's just such a far section left and right. And it's not like there's a grapple thing here. There's no wooden surfaces that I see. And I assume that this area just takes it to its next section. So again, you're in that situation where I almost would have to be here, make a cube. I'd have to be out of it to make a cube. Maybe if I made a really long thing really fast, like that, then hit this and then did that. Would that get me high enough? Obviously they've put the highest elements as high as possible. So if you jump here and hover, what you can't do is just make a cube and then make another cube and then make another cube and then make another cube. I wish it was that easy. Oh well, I guess maybe it is that easy. Does that really feel like that's the solution to that puzzle? No. That feels like I totally just cheated a solution to the puzzle. How many times have we gone through puzzles like this and felt like that's what I've done, when ideally every solution should be incredibly obvious, and it really should highlight that. In comparison, playing Portal 2 or Portal 1, maybe there was once between those two games a time where I may have accidentally found a solution that wasn't the original intentional solution, but I'd say maybe once. Again. And if they grab you, they're going to eat you, and then you're just dead. And then you have to Do we even have a go back and refill your life orb? No. So probably over here. The controller is vibrating as I walk past the lever. We are not in a good position at all. This looks like this is probably some kind of almost boss fight. So we now have creepy mummy goblins. And this is hardly going to be a quick experience to get back to where we were. Okay. Right. I guess the general idea is to probably make a platform that's right in the middle here. Then hit this to get up to this, collect that much, and then come over here and slice these guys up. And I would assume that hitting the acid here is not likely to hurt the enemies. So at some level I imagine the acid is really only there as a red herring. Okay, I'm not gonna get up to where I want to go. I have, as they are on the verge of releasing Trine 5, I have watched more footage of what Trine 5 looks like, and I do have to say, it really does look like it is still just a lot of the same stuff. There are definitely some maybe improvements in boss fights. At least there's a better boss meter that I've seen. There's visual improvements on the way the faces are actually depicted on characters. There's visual improvements overall. But for the most part, it still very much just feels like they are rushing to make as many Trine games as possible, when I think what you could assume has gone wrong here is that left to their own devices, they may have focused on a different game or tried to make a different type of game, but Trine 3 was so poorly received that they felt the need to make Trine 4 very fast, and that has effectively created a situation where it doesn't, that made Trine 5 also feel like it is premature as a game. Either I'm supposed to just jump through here and there's something I'm visually not seeing, or we're supposed to do this. Acid burns all these. It springs back. Is there possibly some other part of the stomach that's supposed to be burnt? This is a great example of just not really being able to figure out what they want from you. There's so many things in the foreground and background. What in the world is the thing we're supposed to be looking at? I almost feel like it might be glitched and I am supposed to already be able to walk through that area. Yeah. Let's see. Whoops. Okay. If this is the solution, is to do this. Then I'm gonna have to do this, and do this, and then switch to this, and see if I can pour any of that acid. I clearly did get acid on that side that time. And yet it just feels like there's a total invisible wall here. Will not reset puzzles or monsters if we return to this. Which I very well may need the puzzles and monsters to reset. Which may mean I need to restart like the entirety of this level over again. Could there be other things? Certainly. There's a ton of darkness here. Ton of room. Choose or restart level. Resume level. Current game setup. Let's just move the cursor everywhere. Yes, you could make a very stretched out section here and push it. I don't mind this grotesqueness myself, but I would have to say visually this is very inconsistent with what the rest of the levels look like, and you kind of know it's just going to be for this one level. You can use the box as it illuminates to try to make a better visual. If we were to try and shove this through the invisible wall, really is just not anything else to do. That drops acid down that way. Acid seemingly doesn't do anything when it gets dropped. Put that there, make a little platform here, drop acid here, then we've got a whole bunch of acid. Okay. Save game. Choose and reset level. Latest save.
After the goblins had attacked...
Skip. That puts us here, and it was totally just glitched. Like we just walked right through it this time. So we've straight up just seen glitches now in the game, and suffice it to say that's not really acceptable. Come on. There we go. And down we go
Did you notice
here.
that we're moving? It's like this worm is headed somewhere.
Interesting. So this one seems to grab light energy or fireflies from the other and suck it away, but it doesn't seem to light up itself. Meanwhile, we've got what looks like a drop and some collectibles, so I'd almost assume you were going to jump this direction and find something, but okay, so you basically have a blindness trick here, which I don't particularly appreciate that idea of them introducing just the general concepts of you can't see, so because you can't see, that's the puzzle. There's just no telling whether there's anything else around here worth collecting. And so I'm guessing that there's a whole trick there. There's more to it. And that we're supposed to potentially light up sections. It's just not... Okay, so now it lit up. Good. So now we can see this whole section a little bit clearer. And we can see that there was a drop down there. But it's seemingly nothing else. It's pretty obvious you wouldn't have wanted Trine 3 to ever be made, or it should have been just like its own unnumbered sequel spin-off game. But I can't help but feel like Trine 4 and Trine 5 could potentially have been merged into one game, and a little bit more just absence to make the heart grow fonder overall in the series. And that's really saying a lot, because I play video games like non-stop. Like, I go through one game every week or so at most, and so I'm playing a ton of games, and so my level of remembering what even happened in Trine 1 is going to be nearly nothing. And yet I still definitely have that feeling that it is too much trying too fast. Okay. Okay. I have only one character here to play as, so I'm going to get this to roll, and then, oh, I guess this actually was probably a lot easier. Oops. Except for there was a monster there. It's ridiculous how much you have to press the A button just to move forward. Okay. That was not my intention. So the timing here seems a little slow. Like, so best case scenario, you throw that and then you don't get that back. So I don't know if you can really throw that and then do what you need to do. Throw that and that blows that up, and then yeah, you just don't move fast enough. So you absolutely need a couple of characters here. You need this potentially be here, and then that to do that, and then we need to get past that checkpoint so we don't have to mess with it anymore. I am definitely enjoying, though, the kind of calmer nature of all this. It doesn't feel as hectic as it might be. Like, I definitely could see an alternate version of this where there's just a little bit more danger, a little bit more enemies to fight. I do have to make a comparison. It's perhaps a little bit unfair to something like the Talos Principle here, though, in that the Talos Principle really came up with a genius concept of spouting psychological
I spoke so unkindly of Margaret.
ideas out.
Just mere moments before they took her. I'm a horrible person.
She wasn't exactly radiating love and comfort earlier.
She's very brave, my little darling. Putting up that prickly, steely exterior in the face of danger.
Sure, like a regular Iron Maiden.
Yep. At best in this game, in comparison, you have some of these narrations in the DLC, but the way the Talos Principle, both in text and in dialogue, and in having the character you're playing as well as the main antagonist Elohim talk to you all the time, really let them borrow quite a bit from other deep philosophical things you could think about while you're puzzling, or things that you could also just tune out while you're puzzling. I think The Witness perhaps does a slightly worse job in that example of doing that, in that The Witness has a bunch of audio recordings that you can find and listen to, but they aren't like inherently actually leading to much of a concept as a thought. It's not as deep or psychological as far as what the actual conversations or ideas are. At the end of The Witness, to kind of spoil it, you get this idea of there are lines everywhere, and there's circles and lines everywhere, which is a somewhat simplistic idea. At the end of Elohim, of the Taos Principle, you're left potentially, if you so choose, with major questions of philosophy as far as the nature of man and the nature of being a person versus being a robot. Both of those games have you solving puzzles as the main factor and the main challenge. Okay. You can't tilt this while you're on it, however. So, I guess if I did something like this, and then did something like this, I can get through that way. Do I think every single puzzle game needs to have deep philosophical conversations happening? Yes, but I mean, no. That would be very limiting as far as how games were made and the stories that were told. But this isn't also a game that's just like dumb fun as a narrative or concept either. Something should be said, would be, I guess, the idea that I'm trying to get across here, is that just being in silence is a problem, particularly since we kind of know that if we are really struggling with puzzles, the silence then gets replaced with the pity hints at the story. Honestly, if these guys just started singing the tales of fantasy characters, or talking about just backstory things that don't matter at all, I'd be perfectly happy with all of that. But something is what we're missing here. Anything. So it seems to me like these things probably would bite you and eat you if you're directly in front of them. However, if you're not directly in front of them, they are just platforms. It's the idea of a movable platform. Not the worst idea. Neither one of these are. Let's go ahead and hit that. That'll get me up there. Although, still it's not really getting me high enough. Unless swinging the sword at the exact right time would also count as touching it. You'd think that there would be something to grapple here. I don't know why gravity is working so much better here. Okay. We want something like that. get to that. Then we would want that. And then we'd want to come over here and collect all that. Can I make it all the way back up? I'm wondering if the timing gets destroyed because of gravity bubbles. This kind of fast-paced action platforming hasn't really been prevalent because we haven't had those movable puzzles before. Wonder if there's an idea here to get it to eat one of the orbs. You'd think it might be that, where you're supposed to drop one of these onto the people with the right timing. It doesn't seem like it is just a case of it exploding, obviously, though. It seems like you would have to get very accurate timing, and I just don't think that's really the goal here. So I have no idea what the deal is with those two things. They just feel like red herrings once again. Then we're clearly playing with the idea of lighting again, which as soon as they introduced in the first game the idea that this would light up areas, the idea of having a dark area lit up or not lit up kind of falls out the window. So you would almost have to take away some ability from the player that they've had from the beginning of the game, the first game, for it to make sense to have these dark sections. And honestly, it doesn't really make enough sense to have dark sections in any game. This is dangerously close to what I like to call dark screenshot syndrome, where there's just a lot of like, these guys are just throwing things all over the place. A lot of nothing, but you can't really see anything because it's all too dark, too much shadows. I guess technically you could get the acid to fall on some people. See if that actually hurts anybody. I feel like there's probably a big difference between an encounter where a character might have some AI and might go and do something different, and the encounters that we're mostly having here, which is they are just going to track to where you are and then attack you. Okay. Magnetic shield. Knight is up to his own tricks with magnetic sleeve. Magnetizes the knight shield and objects touches. Upon reapply, the objects clinging to the shield will be shot forward through the air. So that is all of the abilities for the knight, and which I've just been referring to him as the shield guy. And that doesn't seem to have given me an achievement. 4 more levels I could get all of this, but definitely would make a lot more sense to get this and this next, since we've already seen metal magnetizing enacted for the wizard. And if there is any achievement, it's going to be around getting all the levels. Oh. Magnetized shield to pull. So it's click the right stick and then launch. That's, for the most part, completely useless, in my opinion. You can see in the way that was magnetized, there was not a real focus on keeping the cubes together, which that is what you would want to have seen, is that the cubes would have been magnetized to each other and then flung together in a much more controlled way. Darn it. I think I'm gonna have to play as our other guy. Just at this point, do this. Glide to that. That didn't get quite high enough to make the full jump. It is perhaps a little bit of a catch-22 in that I would also as equally be complaining about the fact that this game is visual for that whole sections would have just been fairly repetitive and the exact same things.
At a pool of gastric acids.
Okay. Maybe I should just use the regular bow and arrow so it falls down. Okay. So from the looks of it, almost certainly need this, which has proven to be a much better maneuver. And then, wow, I just got an achievement called Bouncy Bouncy. Send one of the conjured bouncing on any of the bouncy surfaces for 10 seconds. Not sure I really understand what that means, but obviously I've gotten an achievement. Well, I know something has just been bouncing for 10 seconds in the screen to the left. Here we've got another collectible poem. Art. These mummified goblins. Really does just feel like it should be a completely different game. Not really sure what not really sure what the move here is. Make a platform and then hope it slows down. I mean, that gets me to that point. certainly, but there's just no swing and grapple sections, and feels like we are in probably a close spot to... Oh, it's a bubble. Where did the bubbles come from? Okay. That goes down. And standing even on the most right side of this seems to push it that way. Alright, well, we need to investigate this area, so we'll go and collect all of these. That part makes a bubble. Okay. Alright, I kind of see what I'm supposed to do then. Put that there. But yeah, it's just gonna boil. So stand here until bubble arrives, and then hop on that bubble until it goes up.
Perhaps a little poking in the right spot would give the worm an upset stomach.
Meanwhile, we're trying to collect all the collectibles, and the game's not realizing that, so it's giving me a hint instead. I assume the time slowing down mechanism here is probably not really shortening the life of this bubble. And I assume that there's not anything more to do. I assume also that we're kind of close to the end of the level. My guess is I'm supposed to probably drop a cube and then hit that with that. I'll have to do that again. Drop a cube and then hit that with that. I'm missing. Let me ask this, if I were to drop a cube and then hit that. Okay. Drop a cube and then hit it with the flaming sword. Well, whatever. That worked for me. That's not really what I was trying to do. I was trying to hit the orb with the flaming sword so it would be on fire like an explosive barrel, even though those eggs or pus sacks or whatever they're supposed to be don't even really have the same delay as the explosive barrels.
Free of the clutches of the giant sandworm,
You get a nice
Amadeus,
little
Pontius, and
animation
Zoya
there,
sought to find
but
a
it
plan
doesn't
for
really
what to do
finish the
next.
view.
Get on with it. We need to find Margaret. Who knows what's being done to her?
Amadeus suffered greatly as he pondered the fate of his wife in the hands of the goblins. With the Trine still missing, they would have to find Margaret on their own.
Yep. ideally you would have wanted to see that animation go all the way to the point of them getting puked up, and then you seeing some giant sandworm monster vomiting, because I don't feel like we really got a good view of what the sandworm monster looked like at the end of the previous level either. But inherently, I can't really agree with the idea that if the explosive barrels concept is only being slightly tweaked for the pustule eggs, whatever those were, in the game, that just reskinning a concept gets away too far away from the main game mechanics. Which, yeah, you certainly couldn't also retroactively have improved the main levels of the main game if there were those eggs instead of explosive barrels. So yeah, overall that just feels like a very bizarre side level that I just don't really see a reason why you would spend your time doing a bizarre side level unless you were going to have a reoccurring joke where they get digested or swallowed by characters and inside the stomach of characters 2 or 3 times throughout the entirety of a Trine 3 or a Trine 2. Anyways, that was almost another hour, so that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.